Hi there, welcome back to a new project. The project that's under wraps. And that might sound a bit strange, but the reason I did this is because this is a little bit of a mystery project. In fact, it's a bit of a shock project, and you'll see in a second. I decided to order this tube radio because of a particular characteristic that I had never ever seen on any radio that I have restored. Enough mystery? Let me show you what I'm talking about. Well, yeah, I just gets me every time. It got me when I saw the listing. It gets me now. This thing is ugly, really ugly. I've never seen anything so outrageous. Somebody took this perfectly good Loewe-opta Truxa 1701w. It is from a very good brand. I've done quite a few Loewe-optas before. I've done a Loewe-opta Truxa before, which was probably one of the first lot that I did. And it had amazing results, amazing characteristics. So I've always liked the Loewe-optas, and I had reason to like the Truxa model as well. And then I saw this thing advertised on eBay, and I couldn't believe it. I thought I was colorblind. But I checked closely, and you'll see what I mean when I show you the details. This is why the thumbnail actually has a black and white border, because I didn't want to spoil the surprise and try and perhaps get the same chuckle out of you that this thing gets out of me every time. So this radio is going to be the next project. It's a very good radio if you can get over the color. I want to take this thing all the way through and try and get the shame out of this one's face before the end of the project. So this is a time when having Dave Tipton living in Madeira would be really, really useful, but he's already refused my invitation to come over. He's trying to increase the population of Australia by getting me to go over. It ain't going to happen. I like Madeira too much. I think he likes Australia too much. But anyway, this is the project. I'll be doing the electronic restoration as usual. If there's anything new, anything interesting, we'll obviously focus on that a bit more. These projects do tend to sort of go their own directions as and when I find things that really sort of attract my attention. But most importantly, I want to be able to scrape this thing down, scrape it down to the wood. I don't know what it's like underneath. Maybe the reason they painted this way is because it was really that bad. I know there are certain things that are pretty bad. There are parts that have come unstuck. It doesn't surprise me. But I looked at the back and it doesn't look too bad. And I'll show you in detail. It doesn't look too bad. It looks pretty normal. So hopefully there's might be hope for this radio yet. And if nothing, I'll be able to proudly display something that doesn't look like this at the end. So if this sort of thing interests you, if you want to see what it's like to put this thing out of its misery, stick around, enjoy the video and the series. Okay, let's get started. Now, forget about the blue for now, or green, whatever this color is. Let's have a look at some of the details. What really got me about this is when I looked at this section, it looked like it was in very, very good condition. It's just what I would expect from a radio from this era. I think this 1701 is 1957, if I'm not mistaken. But it's got the usual. We've got our tone controls over here, highs and bass. We've got off. We've got pickup. This is good because I'm planning to put a Bluetooth module on here. We've got long wave, medium wave, and UW, which is FM. And all those seem to be clicking fine over there. There are preset tone controls or tone shaping. Let's see, what have we got here? We've got, this is bass, which is activate or deactivate. Then you've got a choice between jazz, orchestra, speech. So mostly speech, jazz, speech, and orchestra. Those all seem to be working quite well. This logo is completely painted over. At this end, we've got tuning. And I'm trying to see whether I can see, it seems to be turning, but I don't see, oh, there it is. I can see this thing turning. There we go, that's working. And that's on FM. Let's see if I put medium wave. Where is the guy? I don't see oh, it's stuck over here. So something's wrong with that for the AM bands. But this is a clutch mechanism, so depending on which one you push, if you push FM, it activates the top one. If you push one of the AM bands, it activates the bottom one, and the bottom one's not moving, although I can see it's stuck over there somewhere. So this is tuning. And as I mentioned, this thing seems to be part of the wood is all loose over here. So this is not, some of this has come unstuck. So this cabinet is really sort of almost falling apart. The paint is probably holding it together. And over here we've got just the volume, and it's a single knob. So that's just volume, and it is turning. Okay. Now what is, there's a little window down here. Usually that window will close up or open up depending on this setting, but I don't see it doing anything, so it seems to have gone. Same applies to this one on this side for the treble. So there's no cap covering part of that. That should be easy to rectify. We got a magic eye. Oh yeah, this is one of the difficult ones to replace. I think I might have the Russian substitute for this if necessary, which it probably will be. The speaker grill is in pretty good shape. In fact, it's in perfect condition, except this is a bit stained over here. That shouldn't be a problem. That should be quite easy to clean up. So the grill is perfect. This trim here is fine. The brass trim around here has been completely painted over. So we're going to have to get that back down to the brass. If it is brass, usually it is. And of course the Loewe-opta emblem here. It is all there. And this is a beautiful brass emblem normally. So this will be probably quite easy to get back to its original condition. I can see some of the brass coming through there on that trim, so that shouldn't be a problem. There, the cabinet's actually cracking, and I can see it separating on there as well. These side panels are completely messed up. This is usually that plastic brown. It's all being painted. The grill, or the fabric inside here, needs to be replaced. It's actually just filled in with paint. Most of the little holes are actually soaked through with paint. So that needs to be corrected as well. And then we've got another major issue, the back. There is no back cover. Now, I knew this. It doesn't surprise me. No back cover means I'm going to have to find a way to replace this. But it shouldn't be too difficult. I did like the look of the speakers when I first saw this. That bass speaker looks quite hefty. It usually is a very good speaker on these radios, and the sound should be pretty impressive. It then has these two mids and treble speakers. This will have a capacitor here probably to isolate the bass frequencies from it. So there's one here and another one on that end. They both, or all speakers, look to be in good condition. Other than that, there's not that much that can be described as dramatic. We've got the output transformer here. It's a pretty good output transformer. This thing uses an EL84 output tube over there. All the tubes seem to be in place. The power transformer's over there. We've got the ABC80 right next to the output tube. Two IF transformers. These are pretty good transformers. An EF89 in the middle there is the IF amplifier. And if I'm not mistaken, that's the ECH81 as the mixer oscillator. So pretty standard so far. Now, if we look at the FM block, it's got an ECC85. Again, not unusual. What is this? Oh, this is a piece of the cabinet that's come loose from the bottom left over here. That's why the cabinet is all rickety. That little tuning condenser there, that's an FM one. This FM block is actually open, which is unusual. Usually they're completely sealed, but this one seems to be fairly open. I'm trying to see where the tuning condenser is for the AM. This is definitely for the FM. It's just 3 fins each. So this is the FM one. I don't know where the AM one is. It's probably on the inside. I can't see it. The filter capacitor is actually at the back here on its side. That's pretty unusual, but shouldn't be an issue. So what I'm going to do now is just figure out what I need to desolder to get this thing out of the cabinet. I'm going to have to desolder the speakers. I might be able to remove that whole faceplate with the main speaker on. I'll just do a bit of investigating and see what it is that I need to unscrew besides the usual 4 screws at the bottom to bring the chassis out. Okay. Well, I've got the radio out. It's quite easy. I just cut the wires to the speakers and this whole thing just came out. I had to sort of tilt it as it came through this section because the speaker actually sits back. This is a strange arrangement. The speaker, I wonder if this is not the right speaker for this. And look at this. The whole bottom is falling out of this thing. See that? Oh God, what have I got myself into? This whole thing is loose. This whole cabinet is loose. Dave, help me. This is when you need a workshop, a woodworking workshop, and someone who knows how to use the machinery. Part of this is just sort of rotted away. You know what? I'm going to put this nightmare aside for now because, yeah, it's going to be fun. Maybe it will be. Maybe it will be. Let me show you the chassis. So here we are. We can have a good look at it now. I see a few things that tell me someone's been in here. These dial lamps look far too new. Yep. They look far too new to have been the originals. So someone has replaced dial lamps, which means they probably will work. Also, I noticed that the dial glass, the panel on the side, or the clip on the side, has been bent out and has not been bent back to hold this properly. So I've got to be very, very careful with this dial glass. It's one of the first things I'm going to remove so I don't break it. As I mentioned previously, this whole FM section, or most of the FM section, is not shielded. There's only a shield on that part over there, so this is all open. In a way, it's better because you get access to it, but it also would allow more noise. I see some very fine wires here that have been... I wonder if that's come off. I'll have to check. The other thing I noticed is that on FM, the dial point is actually moving, and we can see that. That's the FM tuning condenser over there at the back, and we can see that the dial pointer is definitely moving. The AM, I'll have to look at it when I flip this over because it's on the underside. This whole thing here is loose, which is just begging. I was going to say it's just begging for a wire to come loose, and one has. There's one little wire down there that has broken off. Interesting. We'll have to see where that goes, because this thing cannot move. These wires are very fine. So if one of those coils is broken, there's something... Obviously we won't receive one of both of the AM bands, won't be able to work. I'll have to fix this. In fact, what I'm going to do is fix it right now, temporarily, so that doesn't cause any more damage while I flip this thing around. I'll just do this. I just wanted to stay in place and not get worse, because when I get to that, I'll need to do a very close inspection of that. This radio's got one of those AEG selenium rectifiers, which look like a filter cap. This thing got me at first. I thought it was a filter cap. This is actually a selenium rectifier. The filter capacitor is actually down here on its side. Transformer, fuse. There is no... Oh, there is. There's the voltage selection over here. And what is it set to? Looks like it's set to 220. I'm probably going to set it to 240. So what we've got here is 110, 125, 150, 220, and that down here is 240. It looks like the 240 doesn't have a pin in there, so it obviously doesn't allow for 240. Okay, not a problem. 220 should be fine. This output transformer is flapping around here, so it's been out. They put this screw in there, or this nut, and they didn't fix the transformer. Shoddy, not a good idea. There's actually high voltage coming onto here, so you don't want that thing to be loose. The underside is pretty much what we expected. We've got these open form tone controls, which attract a lot of dust, but shouldn't be a problem. This over here, oh, this is that thing that rolls over. Let me show you. Through that little window that you see on the front, you should see this thing darken. And what I've noticed is as you turn this, this is not turning at all. Now that should be turning. And I see that there's a string. Oh, there we go. See that? It should do that. But this string is broken. That's why that's not working. Okay, easy enough to repair. Same applies to the other side, yeah, there's no string. Not a problem. Now let's look at the tuning condenser. So the tuning condenser was stuck, and I am trying to turn it on the underside, and I could just see this thing move, which means the dial cord is all okay. Let's see if it's just, yeah, this thing is really tight. It's just a question of lubricating the tuning condenser. I can see the dial pointer moving over there, so the dial string is okay. Sometimes when this happens, the dial string actually breaks. But this one, because it's got a clutch, it's just slipping, and that saved the dial string. So clean out the old lubrication with the old grease with WD-40, loosen it up, clean up the WD-40 with alcohol, and then give it a bit of lubrication, a little bit of oil or grease where it should work like new. This might have to come off to get to that, but it shouldn't be too difficult. There's a cap on here. All right, so far so good. Nothing too scary over here. And I noticed they've got a new cord that they've put on here. This thing is definitely not original. And they did not solder it in, which they could have done. It's easy enough. There's one point there and one point there to the switch. The switch seems to be, all these seem to be clicking fine. These switches are actually in very good condition. They just need a bit of cleaning, but they did put some zip ties on both sides to make sure that it holds in place, but it looks really messy. Now, what have we got here? We've got a lot of paper caps. Oh, these are a little bit difficult to get to. There are a lot of paper caps, and these will all need to be changed. Some down there, some there. These are bubbling. All these will need to be changed. On the underside, really only paper capacitors that need changing here. There must be another electrolytic, which is probably the bypass, usually the bypass cap on the preamp tube, on the power tube, I beg your pardon. I can't see another electrolytic, but that could just be the camera in the way. Or it's inside the that section cap. Instead of having two capacitors, like it normally does, it might have the third one as well. Usually a smaller capacitor, something like, I don't know, probably 20 microfarads. They sometimes put 3 in 1. This looks like it's been desoldered. So someone's been in here, they've done a few things right, they've done a few things wrong. It's not really that scary. This is a fairly simple chassis, fairly simple radio, and this should be fairly routine to get this thing going. I'm just wondering what I need to test before. Actually, the first thing I'm going to do is try and loosen that tuning capacitor, because that makes the testing a lot easier when I get this thing going. But I want to remove the faceplate or the dial glass and then see how I go from there. Probably test the output transformer as well. I'm not sure if this thing has not been changed. Why would they have removed the output transformer? I don't understand that. Mind you, when people mess with radios, you never understand it. Sometimes it's done by someone and it makes sense, and other times you just don't see the logic, but I'm sure they had an idea. The trick is to find out what the idea was and make sure they haven't messed anything up. Let's do some testing of the output transformer and the power transformer, make sure we've got something, and then we'll know that we've got a good basis for a restoration project. Right, it took a while, but I think I've got the tuning condenser loosened up. It's still slipping a little bit, but it seems to be working. However, what I have noticed is that the dial pointer had literally been snapped off. So I'm putting that aside. We'll fix that later. But I've got the tuning working, going both ways. That took quite a while because I didn't want to remove this cover, but at least it's done. I've done the quick test on the output transformer and the power transformer that I've shown before. I'll link one of them above. It's just an easy way to test whether the output transformer is not blown and whether the power transformer is not blown without actually powering it up. I'll link those above if you want to look at that. I'm sure if you've watched this channel enough, you know what I'm talking about. But so what I've determined is that the two transformers, which are, in my opinion, probably the most important components on here, seem to be working. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to power it up. I'm going to do it carefully, but I'm going to power it up. I'm going to put this on, let's try long wave. This doesn't make any difference. This is just the tone shaping. So we leave it like that. We'll leave that anywhere. I'll put the volume on to max. Connected the speaker on here. I've actually connected the mini whip antenna to the back there. I'm being optimistic. And I'm not worried about the treble speakers, just the main speaker. I'm going to put this thing on one dim bulb, 40 watt bulb. This will be a lot of restriction. I mean, 40 watts is very low. And it's gone bright and dimming. So we don't seem to have any shorts. And we do have the dial bulbs working, which is good. Now I'm being very careful with that. I don't want to see that thing spike. Now this light bulb should start glowing again. Yes, it is. As the valves start drawing current, and I can hear hum. And this hum is not really affected by the volume. So I think it's the filter caps that are probably not very good. Do we get anything? Nothing so far, but with one light bulb, I'm not expecting much. Let me give it another light bulb. That's drawing 130 milliamps. It's only seeing 160 volts. Now it's seeing about 200 volts. I can hear the noises. This is right at the end. That's having an effect. So it looks like our speaker's working, or our amplifier's working. Nothing there. Let me try the FM. I'll just change the antenna to the dipole inputs up here. So FM. Nothing. Let me give it another light bulb. Might be too low. I can definitely hear a hum, so I definitely have to change the filter caps. No. Switches are working, but I've got nothing so far. I just remembered as I was doing this that I do have a clue. One of those little wires has come off there, and if I don't have those wires on there, I don't think I'll get anything on either long wave or medium wave, so it's not surprising. It's also not surprising that it gets louder as you get to the one end, because usually that'll happen if your ferrite's not connected. Okay, I think that will be the next step to get the AM bands back and the FM. I also remembered mentioning that this little wire over here, one of these wires may be loose. I'm going to have to look at it very carefully. I can't really tell that it's gone, but if it is that wire, that's actually the antenna wire. And I do have the schematic. Unfortunately, that's all I have. I'm going to have to look for a similar model and try and find where the components are drawn so I know. This thing is not clear at all. They sort of tell you where it is, but they don't tell you. I suppose this is all you're going to get over here as to where the different coils are, because I know, for example, on the FM, I think the coil that may have a broken winding it may actually be this one over here, because I see that the antenna wires are coming in to that solder connector there, the terminal strip over there. So it might be one of these, which would make this thing completely deaf. That makes sense. And as for the AM, I know there's a wire that's loose, and this is the ferrite antenna over here. So the antenna comes in and it'll go through there, or it'll be picked up by the ferrite antenna. But you see, if the antenna is broken, if one of these wires there, or there has been broken, and I know one of them has, then obviously nothing will get through to here. In fact, I'm better off just connecting the antenna wire to this point over here. I should probably hear something, but that's not what I'm going to do. I think, let's see, if one of these is broken, if it's this one, then it would still pick up something, because the internal antenna would be there. So the one that's broken is either this one or this one, and I'm going to have to see where it possibly connects, because it's moved. That's the problem. That wire is broken off and it's moved. So I'm going to do a bit more investigating. I just got the schematic, and so I haven't had much time to look at it, but it's fairly clear. Unfortunately, it doesn't have a component layout, so I don't really know where the respective coils are, or the respective what the components are on that FM block or on the antenna. They sort of give us some indication here, but it's very, very sketchy. The way to do this is you go and look for a model that's probably one level up. This is the Truxa 1701. And you see, if I go here to, let me just put in Truxa, nvhr.nl. See if I get, yeah, there we go. That is the 1701. This is the 2731. Let me look at that schematic. It's pretty much the same thing. It doesn't really have, it's got the same layout here. It doesn't really show me more about the components. In fact, this is a terrible schematic. Let's try this one. This is the one, I think this is the one that I did on the channel previously. Ah, you see, yeah, that won't help. This is what I was looking for. That won't help because this is a different model altogether, although, ECC85, see, that's got the FM block down at the bottom. I'm looking at this with my head leaning sideways. This is already a more modern version. It's got the printed circuit boards. This has actually got, yeah, this is the stereo one. It's got two EL84s, I remember now. The one that I did was the stereo. Okay, point is, this is the schematic I've got. I'm going to have to probably follow a few wires on here, find out which where those things connect to, and go from there. But I'm also going to correct this issue with I'm going to replace that capacitor. That filter capacitor here has got two 50 microfarads. That'll be replaced with two 47 microfarads at 450 volts. So that'll take care of the filtering. And let's see, there must be another capacitor here somewhere. Remember I said there was another, usually there's another electrolytic. I just haven't seen it. But this is the cathode bypass on the EL84. There it is there. And there's probably another one, which is the FM. There we go, that one there. The FM discriminator cap. That's 2 microfarads. That'll be there somewhere as well. But I think the first thing I'm going to do is work on the power supply filtering and see if I have to replace that selenium rectifier or not, and try it again and get back to you. For now, I'm going to leave you here, and I hope you've decided to stick around with me for this project. I mean, if nothing else, this is going to be an interesting cabinet restoration. Try to get rid of that color. But it also seems that someone's been in here and someone's done quite a few things on here, which always leaves me a little bit nervous. But hey, the challenge is increased. So I hope you've enjoyed that. And if you have, click like, share, subscribe, and all that jazz. And if you want to support the channel directly, you can do so on Patreon. Thanks for watching. Bye for now and stay safe.